A lot of new specials have arrived with Splatoon 3 and some of them are even meta-defining on how useful and powerful they are, but at the same time they all seem to have their weaknesses and are relatively fair. But for some reason Nintendo felt it's important for one particular special to return with Splatoon 3, which coincidentally was also and still is the most hated special in the whole franchise, Tenta Missiles. They have been the most hated special in the community for quite a while now, and their announcement of it for Splatoon 3 upset a lot of players, but why is that? While the homing nature of missiles have been somewhat nerfed, they are still one of the only specials in the game that can enjoy absolute global range and lock-on targeting with no downsides. This means it really doesn't require any skill or aiming to use it, except for maybe the timing itself, which is arguably important, but aside that, it's also one of the easiest specials available to us. In Splatoon 2, that already escalated into players calling each other names or degrading players using the Tenta Missiles for using this no-skill special to carry them, and it contributed to an unhealthy side of Splatoon, since it generated lots of anger, bickering, and raging. Now before we dig deeper, I just like to say if you enjoy playing Tenta Missiles, there's nothing wrong with that. Continue to do so and don't let people ruin your fun or tell you otherwise. This is a design problem and the game is to blame, not the players. I personally don't care much about the skill part of the special, as there's already a lot of variance of skill requirements in Splatoon, and I don't think just because something is easy and effective is necessarily a bad thing. We also have the Reef Slide or a Big Bubbler that can also produce fantastic results with no effort, yet they aren't really hated. So why? It mainly comes down to psychological reasons, I think. Since the Tenta Missiles have global range and unhindered target lock-ons, one can simply use them at the very end of the map, just painting left and right, never engaging the opposing team, or at least just very minimally, to look for enemy paint, and can spam this special throughout the game and still be an effective member of the team. The problem here is that this creates a somewhat abusive relation, almost akin to griefing between two players, the receiving end and the Tenta Missile user, that is completely unfun for one side, since if it's a relatively balanced match, there is a very fair chance that you will never even see the Tenta Missile user player throughout the game, but you will be struck by those missiles many times, either directly splitting you or helping indirectly by displacing you in a bad position. Everyone hates being spawn camped as well, right? The times when the opposing team is doing so much better, you can barely leave your base and you get instantly splatted without any ability to fight back, just waiting for the countdown. The Tenta Missiles create a similar relation, or even worse, as you can't shoot back, yet you will be under the radar all the time. I love the example of World of Tanks in this case. It's a large-scale tank battle game with multiple types of vehicles but also artillery. Artilleries are a very slow-firing tank that have a range to fire anywhere on the map, but their downsides is that aiming takes time and they have a very long reload time too. And similarly, artilleries are also heavily disliked because there's nothing more infuriating than having a fun and engaging battle and get shot by something you will never ever be able to fight back, ruining the fun with somewhat no pros whatsoever. There are also counter-arguments that you could just alter the way you play and be more careful, but the truth in the end is you're altering your gameplay from its core purpose, which is fighting each other, into hiding from each other, which is somewhat the same thing Tenta Missiles do. But there's another reason Tenta Missiles are enjoying popularity at the moment and escalated the situation into something worse, which is Splatoon 3's map design, that I think is the main problem. Splatoon 3's stages are all very open, lacking alleys and alternate paths to approach the enemy turf, and seemingly all of them have positions that favor backliners and chargers very well. Everyone is just going to the middle of the stages, and these weapons can see it all. This is already very apparent from the current meta of 1.1.2, and even in tournaments we've seen how backliners such as the E-Leader was dominating a lot of compositions because of just how advantageous the maps are for them. Now the reason this is important is that such map design and teams making use of chargers is also limiting the options for the opposing team to deal with them or engage them efficiently, with one of the options being Tenta Missiles. Tenta Missiles' main advantage isn't in the power to split players, but its ability to disrupt and displace them, and a single well-timed Tenta Missile can counter a well-positioning backliner and allow your team to push, which is even easier now thanks to everyone being in the same place, allowing for easier lock-ons for missiles. I personally think this is bad design for multiple reasons. For one, it's heavily limiting the variety of Splatoon, and I always thought one of the best things about Splatoon is just how much variety there is in weapons and also their kits. There's so many ways to play this game, but the current map design is heavily limiting that. And the second reason for me is that, what's the point of the stages then? You have these fantastic points that players can use and arguably it's really hard to attack. But then you have Tenta Missiles that completely messes up the position of the opposing team, which the whole map is designed around and making it pointless. Then wouldn't it just make more sense to have better maps in the first place that reward smart strategies, flanking, and a variety of solutions to problems. Overall, Tenta Missiles are annoying, yes, and they could use more adjustments to make it a more fun special for everyone, not just the user. The main problem though I think is much deeper than that, and I would say it's the map design and also design philosophy of Splatoon 3 currently, as the maps feel limiting to the true potential of Splatoon, and it makes a huge game like this feel much smaller. I'm personally hoping for better stages in the future, maybe even some minor reworks for the current ones, but I'm interested what your views are on Tenta Missiles now, and also the stages of Splatoon 3. Do you like the maps? Which map do you think is the worst offender to this? Let me know in the comments section, and I'm looking forward to reading them. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all the next time.